I think the best feature of TABOR is that it's in effect, a spending cap. I mean, yes, on the surface, it's a revenue limit, but when you combine that limit on revenue to population plus inflation with a balanced budget requirement, it means that you wind up with a spending cap. And for those of us who are concerned about keeping a limit on the growth of government, that's what makes TABOR so effective. And I've looked at all the research on tax and expenditure limits, all the different fiscal rules that apply, not just in the US, but also around the world. And there's even research from normally left-leaning international bureaucracies like the IMF and the OECD. They all say that the only thing that really seems to work is to limit the annual growth of government spending. There are 49 states in America that have some sort of balanced budget requirement. Does that stop big government and high taxes in Illinois, New Jersey, California, places like that? Of course it doesn't. In Europe, they have something called the Maastricht criteria, which are designed to control deficits and debt. Does that stop ever bigger government and ever higher taxes in places like Italy, France, and Greece? No. TABOR works because it focuses on the variable that's important, which is how fast does government grow? If government grows faster than the productive sector of the economy, you're going to get yourself in trouble in the long run. That's a recipe for ever higher tax burdens. It's a recipe for more waste, more corruption in government. But if you have government grow no faster than the private sector, or ideally a little bit slower than the productive sector of the economy, that's a recipe for fiscal prudence. It's a recipe for forcing politicians to actually make choices and actually engage in trade-offs. I mean, I'm switching back and forth between what happens at the state level and what happens in Washington. But I can tell you from having worked for decades in Washington, the fundamental problem is that politicians all get together and they engage in what's known as log rolling, which means, okay, I'll vote for your spending, you vote for my spending. Everyone in Washington wins, but guess who loses? The American people and the American economy. We want governments to be forced to live within budgets on an annual basis. And that's why the spending cap that is implicit in TABOR is such a wonderful development and something that should be copied.